Hi guys. I'm Mrs. Coldren. I am the ELA instructional coach and I teach 11th grade English and AP Latin composition. And we have pathways to academic success and school-wide test prep. So today we're going to cover some things that we do to help students with their learning, especially when it comes to literacy, both reading and numeracy. We're going to talk about MSTEP preparations, PSAT and SAT a little bit, NWEA, and all of that. So there you go. Literacy approach, ESL programs and LEDA, overview of NWA, MSTEP testings, numeracy as the foundation for school-wide test prep, and pathways to literacy success. So we will continue. So I am going to talk about our literacy plan. So this year we are very much going back to the basics of literacy across the board, from littles all the way up to 12th grade. And all of these things build on each other, they connect. Develop strong literacy skills. Students need to have strong listening skills and speaking skills as well. They all go together to build upon each other. So our literacy plans are a reflection of our tier 1 whole classroom practices, and they do bleed into our tier 2 more targeted intervention with ESL, our interventionists, and our tier 3 as we continue on even more targeted instruction. And like I said, it is applied across all of the grade levels, from our little kindergartners to our big 12th grade kiddos. They all go together. So this is just a quick overview of what it looks like. I'm going to talk about K2, 3, 5, and then 6th through 12th grade, how they connect. The daily flow for the kindergarten and second grade is here. So the purpose is to ensure that every single student, from the struggling students to the students who are right where they should be, to the students who might be surpassing the expectations of their grade level, we want to make sure they receive systematic phonics instruction, differentiated reading, vocabulary growth, and structured writing support in a way that aligns with our MyView core framework. So the MyView is the curriculum that they use for English language arts in kindergarten through 5th grade. 5th grade, kindergarten? Yes. Kindergarten. Okay, I was pretty sure. So we start every day. There's a whole group reading and writing. Using MyView, they have a read aloud or a shared reading where they read it together as a group with the teacher. There is an interactive component where they are learning from the teacher about different comprehension, understanding strategies, and then a mini writing lesson using EET. So what is EET? You're going to hear this one over and over, so let me go over it real quick. We have the expanding expression tool, EET, and it's just a method for helping students think deeper about their writing and about different subjects. It can be used orally, where they talk about things. It can be used for actually writing. So kindergartners, they may not write it all right away, but they can talk about it. So there's different colors and symbols that go with different parts of it. So green, the green group is the group or the category. They're grouping something or they're categorizing it. So if we're talking about giraffes, they might put that about, okay, that's an animal. That's an animal in Africa. It is a brown animal. It's a mammal. Those are different groupings. The blue is dew. So blue, dew, they rhyme. See how they're going together. Then we have our I for what does it look like? What is it made from? So this would be a wooden bead or a wooden image, thinking something to be made of wood. Pink parts, white, where do you see it? Where would you use it? And then question mark, what else do you know about it? So we use this across K5, which is why I wanted to go over it. But they will use it in a mini writing lesson right off the bat as a whole class. Then they go into their phonics and word study using UFly and Sadler Oxford. UFly is a university of Florida's Literacy Institute. And that is just a very systematic way of teaching phonics using the science of reading. They put out there, this is our big thing. This is the science-backed thing for how students learn to read, learn their phonics. So they do a ULA lesson, a Saturday Oxford workbook practice, and like I said, both science of reading is the core of those programs. From there, they'll go into their differentiated leveled reading groups. So each student, wherever they're reading, if they're reading a little below, above, they're put in a group with students reading at that same level. And they work with a teacher, a paraprofessional, or interventionists are part of this and helping support their learning in there. And with that, they build fluency and comprehension skills at their instructional reading level. So whatever they can read for their learning, it's not going to be too hard. It's not going to be too easy. It's going to be right there. So the classroom teachers, additional support, and they use decodable text aligned to ULA phonics and the MyView level of readers, as well as some trade books, which are the books we have in our book room at all those different levels. From there, after they also do some independent writing with the EET again. So they take what they talked about, those oral skills, and that is where we start building in that writing work. They are writing things. So that looks different at each grade level. 7th graders are able to do a little more independent writing. Kindergartners may need a little bit more support. And this visual aid just guides them in expanding their writing, not just the dogs. The dog is a very simple sentence. How are we going to expand it? The brown dog. The brown dog takes a nap. What are they doing? So from there, they go on. So struggling writers, they might orally dictate their sentences and then someone writes it down for them and they're able to copy it as they get older and they have more skills. We have more independent writing. 3rd through 5th grade builds upon this. Very similar. We still have MyView. We're still talking a little bit about EET, but they take those next steps and pushing it to the next level. So their daily flow goes similarly. We start with MyView and an intro to the reading grammar using the MyView vocabulary routines and EET. And then they use intro to reading grammar mini lessons. From there, we go into whole group reading, and it looks a little different depending on the day. We start Mondays with, so each unit is a week. They start Mondays with a theme launch, an essential question, their vocabulary, and previewing their anchor text. So the text that they're going to be reading all throughout the week. Tuesday through Thursday, they do close readings of an anchor text. Close reading involves 3 separate readings. I double check. I'm going to talk about that more with the high schoolers. So just, they also do it here. This is where it's starting even younger, but here where the students start really implementing it. Fridays is their culminating discussion and a comprehension check. From whole group reading, they go into their literacy centers and their leveled reading groups. Again, teacher led, there's independent reading. So they're different. There's teacher led leveled reading to start. Probably just turned off on me. It was sitting too long. So they start with different routines of their different stations. Teacher-led reading instruction, independent reading with scaffold written response. They're practicing different skills with phonics, with grammar, critical reading, and there's also peer or partner work implemented in there. And there also is the implementation of writers workshop using EET as our beginning and starting to expand into our ICE-T structure. So ICE-T is what we are implementing from 3rd grade up through 12th grade as our core writing structure. It's not necessarily like, oh, this is the only way, but this is a very structured way to help students think about what they're reading, applying it to their writing, and creating well-developed paragraphs. They introduce a topic, cite textual evidence, explain why that evidence matters and what it is to show, and then making sure they tie back that textual evidence to the purpose or the focus or the claim, their thesis of their writing. So If we are writing a argumentative essay about cats are better than dogs, they're going to introduce the topic. I think cats are better pets than dogs. They're going to find evidence why. Maybe they read something about cats versus dogs and why, how they're different as pets. They find evidence. They explain why that evidence from the text supports that cats are better. And then they tie it back to the whole topic. So they have a weekly routine with that as well. Monday, pre-writing using the EET, based on my view, the different MSET, genre focuses, narrative, argumentative, informational. Tuesdays, they draft an introduction and a claim. Wednesdays, draft evidence section. Thursdays, they draft their conclusion. So this is our evidence section together. Fridays, they refine it, they confer, and they make it published, finalized. 6 through 12, again, moving on slightly different. So K5 has about an hour and a half every day, 2 hours for their literacy time. 6th through 12th grade, we have 60-minute class periods. So it does look a bit different. Again, we're still using ICT. We're still using a lot of the same strategies because it builds upon each other. So our components of our literacy plan for the 6th through 12th grade literacy plan, I said that like 5 times. We have our close reading, which is our multiple reads with annotating, taking notes. So first read is just the general understanding, the main idea of the plot. What am I reading about? What is this reading about here? Our second read, we focus on text structure, figurative language, and author's prep. So while the 3rd through 5th graders may be doing these 3 reads, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, middle and high school, we could be condensing them to 1 day, 2 days, not necessarily the whole 3 days. Our third read through, we are evidence gathering, making inferences and textual connections. We answer text dependent questions, and our close reading has also a writing integration. We are combining those together as they go very well with MSTEP and SAT writing and what they're expected to. Even AP writing, what they're expected to do. AP history, AP lit and comp, they all go together. They all build on each other. We continue with the ICT writing structure, our acronym-based writing. I talked about that. I'm going to keep going. But it is very effective for literary analysis. I'm going to read this story, and I'm going to have an opinion about it and the author. And I'm going to use the text to say, this is why my opinion, my claim makes sense. This is how it's supported. Persuasive writing, research-based papers like argumentative, informational. We also use writer's workshop routine across a unit. So there is we'll talk about in class writing. We could do a whole unit, big 5-paragraph essay where we take 1 week, we're going to work on this skill, this skill, this skill, this skill, and we have a big finalized project at the end. We also do in-class writing. This supports SAT and MSTEP because they're going to be given a writing prompt and they're going to say, okay, you have a certain amount of time, write it. Here's the passage, here's our question prompt, write about it. So developing those skills for MSTEP, SAT, high school writing, post-secondary college writing. We do in-class writing periods as well, where they are given that passage and they have to respond to it using the ICT structure in a timed writing session. So here it is. You have this amount of time, do at the end of class. And again, practice for MSTEP and SAT. So wrapping it all up, literacy skills are developed and built upon from 1 grade to the next. Our K2, we are just learning to read with phonics and comprehension. We're using EET to expand language and develop our writing. 3-5, they're expanding upon the comprehension. There is still an element of phonics there, the more complicated phonics. We're using EET to inform our ICT writing. And then as 6 through 12 graders, they're expanding still upon their comprehension, moving into that analysis side of things, using ICT as their core writing structure. So that is our literacy plans for K-12. I know it's a lot of information, really fast, just a brief overview. So now I am going to hand it off to Ms. Soumaya. our Title III ESL coordinator.
Thank you for making the time to come and join us today. This is Soumaya Abdallah, coordinator of tutorial, ESL and Title III programs. أهلا وسهلا فيكم مرة تانية. So just to wrap up what Ms. Coldren said, literacy, literacy, literacy. Literacy is all about listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And these 4 domains are the domains that we measure every year in our WIDA assessment, which is a mandatory federal assessment that measures how proficient the students are in the English language. Why do children take WIDA? We'll see in a minute. Before I jump into the depth of WIDA, there are 3 important summaries that we decided to put together, and they are the importance of academic support at home. You know, I'm a dance mom, and it always runs across me that it takes 2 to tango, right? You know the tango dance? It takes 2 partners. So we have the school in one hand and parents in the other hand. So it's very important that we focus on our students' academic success, which is a joint venture between school and home. And why? Because this helps children adapt to the school environment. And of course, it gives them more opportunities as they develop academically and socially with their social skills. And again, the last thing is that parents' involvement is key to reinforcing what is taught at school. So it's very important that we just at least have some time to ask our children when we go back, what did you do today? How was your day at school? Tell me one new thing that you learned, you know, these examples. Okay. So as we know, every single year we have an enrollment package that comes to the main office. In this enrollment, there's a home language survey that asks the students or the parents actually, or the /guardians, if they speak another language at home. If they speak another language at home, then according to the state of Michigan, federally speaking, they are considered as non-native English learners. It means they were not born, like the whole household was not born with the English language solely. We have other languages spoken at home. With this being said, we have 3 scenarios every year. We have new students that come to the US without any records, previous academic records. These students, I screen them here using what we call the WIDA screener to check their English language proficiency level. And then the second scenario is when we have students who are moving from other districts to our district, then I just obtain their WIDA scores from the former school. Or the third scenario is we have our own returning students who have already been screened and identified as English learners. And this is how they are set to take the annual WIDA assessment, which starts, as a matter of fact, this coming Monday. And every year it's very important to note that before we start with our MTSS rounds, which is our multi-tiered system of supports to determine our students belong to which tier, whether tier 1 is the general ed, tier 2 are the English learners, and some of the kids that have special needs, and the tier 3 intervention, which is basically the kids with IEPs and 504 plan. Before we actually set all these rounds in practice, I make sure to send every year annual parent notification letters to notify the parents of all of these 3 scenarios. I have 3 different letters going out. What is the language proficiency level of their students? Any questions? So each year, the ESL notification letters are sent home to the parents, and parents can choose to opt their children out of ESL services. If we opt our kids out from ESL services, it gives you the option, the question, if you remember, it means we are not stopping the WIDA test. The WIDA test is an annual assessment that's federally required from our school. Why is this so? لأنه نحن we are held responsible and accountable to provide equitable academic access to every single child under the Civil Rights Act, إنه every child has the right to learn. يعني لازم إذا إجانا ولد ما بيعرف يحكي اللغة وإذا إجانا ولد كتير ضليع باللغة اثنيناتهم يكون عندهم the same chance, the equal opportunity to learn. And this is why we test their English language proficiency level and their development every year. So when you opt that you do not want to choose or you do not want to provide your child with ESL services, it means you do not want your child to work with our EL team, with the extra layer of intervention that's being provided at school. But again, this does not mean that he is opted out from WIDA. WIDA is a federal requirement that has to happen every year. And I'll tell you how your child can exit in a minute. Okay, so WIDA again, it's a framework, as I said, used to identify and accommodate EL students. WIDA assesses listening, reading, writing, and speaking, which are what? Literacy. So it's all like bonded together. There are 6 levels of proficiency. يعني في بالويدا, as a report you still know every year, it indicates the following. If your child scores between 1 and 1.9, then according to the state of Michigan, with the English proficiency level, your child is in the entering language phase, language acquisition. In the second, if your child scores between 2 and 2.9, then your child is in the beginning phase. If your child scores between 3 and 3.9, then he's in the developing phase. And 3 to 3.9 is
Developing.
Developing.
3 to 3.9 is developing. 4 to 4.9 is expanding.
Exactly. And above 4.9 is bridging and reaching. When does your child exit from WIDA? When he or she scored 4.8 or above. لو بتشوف قد ايه كان عندنا تلاميذ السنة الماضية 4.6, 4.7. So please, it's very important, especially that we're starting WIDA next Monday. And I'm trying, I know Ramadan's coming up, and for the families who are observing this holy month, we are trying to finish the high schoolers and middle schoolers before Ramadan. So this is just to keep the kids boosted so they can focus during their exam. Please, it's very important that you help us reinforce that how important test taking is. Because this will not only increase our school data, of course this is important, but we really solely care about seeing improvement with our students every single year. So again, so your child needs to score between 4.8 and above to exit this whole program. What does this tell me then? That this child can manage on his own in every single aspect of the English language, and your child is no longer considered as an English learner under the federal law of the state of Michigan. Understanding ESL programs. So English as a second language program helps students whose first language is not English, again, to improve their language skills. These programs provide tailored support to enhance communication, comprehension, reading, writing, and speaking. Again, this all goes back under literacy. And the benefits of the ESL program, we have a group, by the way, of 6 ESL interventionists. And this year, we decided to take it by grade grouping. We have 1 interventionist for the KA, KB, and 1A. Another interventionist for 1B, 2A, and 2A. And they're focusing on the children who really need the English support. And then we have an ESL interventionist for grades 3, 4, and 5, an ESL interventionist for grades 5 and 6, and then another one for 7 and 8, and another interventionist for high school, for grades 9 to 12. So we're really trying to stay committed to service and to providing equal chances for everyone to learn. So basically, as a summary, the benefits of the ESL program is to accelerate language acquisition, to increase academic performance in other subjects. Obviously, the child needs to understand English to be able to manage in all other subjects, and it fosters cultural integration and self-confidence. Any questions? Thank you very much. And again, these flyers are the WIDA flyers to help you answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much. And now we move on to the overview of the NWA with our assistant principal, Mrs.Lana.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ms. Saleh, Saleh. I'm the assistant principal and instructional coach, and I'm also the test coordinator for NWA and PSAT-SAT. So today we're going to talk about NWA. We have been doing it this month from grades K to 8. We've started with our students. Unfortunately, because of snow days and stuff, we kept having to do exams like every other day and so on. And we're still in the process of makeups and all of that. So NWA, which is also known as the Northwest Evaluation Association testing, specifically the MAP role assessment is a computer adaptive test designed to measure your child's academic achievement and growth over time. Unlike traditional standardized tests, it's not a pass or a fail, okay, exam, and it's not usually tied to a student's grade. So we would like parents to really understand. Okay, with NWA, we do this 3 times a year, and then we see how the child is progressing from the fall, the winter, and the spring. So we give it to K to 8. K to first, they do only reading and math. Second, they do reading, math, language arts, and then 3 to 8, they do reading, math, language arts, and science. Right now in the winter, we're only doing math and reading. Okay. All right, so how does the test work? So parents, this is very important. The test adjusts in real time based on your child's performance. If they answer a question correctly, the next one gets harder. Okay, and if they answer incorrectly, it becomes easier. So the better they do, sometimes you'll see kids when they're testing, they have roughly around 40 questions, but the better they do, they'll have maybe 41, 42, 43. This is designed for challenge because it adapts students to typically answer about 50% of the questions correctly. It's important to tell your child that they will encounter questions they do not know, and that is normal. So sometimes while I'm proctoring exams, I will see things, for example, yesterday, grade 2, she actually had to find the quotient of 23 or something like that. And she's like, Miss, I don't know what to do. I'm like, just try your best, and so on. Subjects and frequency assessments usually cover reading, math, language usage, and sometimes science. Most schools administer the test, like we said, fall, winter, and spring. It's untimed. Most students, they usually finish about 45 to 60 minutes. But even if they don't finish, we still do give them extra time. We take them either to the computer labs or the library, and then they can do it there. We do this too to reduce their pressure and anxiety. So we always tell kids, take your time, do your best. Now, understanding your child's scores, it's based on a RIT scale, which are equal interval measures similar to inches on a ruler. This allows you to track your growth over a year regardless of the grade level. I'm going to show you exactly how it looks. We also have percentile ranks. This indicates how your child performed compared to other students in the same grade nationwide. For example, a 72nd percentile means that they scored as well or better than 72% of their peers. And each grade level has a certain RIT score to be on proficiency level. So this is what the 2025-2026 reading student achievement norms. So if your child falls from K to 8, in the fall, this is their mean score, so they should score around 138 or better, okay? I'll go over the SD. SD is not something that we really look into, but it's just something I'm gonna let you guys know what it's about. We like to look at the mean scores. So for example, in kindergarten, students should have scored somewhere around 138, and then in the winter, 146, and then in the spring, 152. So this is reading. And then over here, we have the math. Math, again, I'm just going to use kindergarten. They should have scored around 141. For fall, winter is 151, and the spring is 115. Okay. So those are the different scores. I'm going to talk about the SD right here, so you know what these numbers represent. SD shows how spread out student scores around the average. Okay, that's the mean. A smaller SD, most students scored close to the average. If it's a larger SD, students score a very more. It's a wider range of abilities. So for example, if grade 3 spring has a mean of 194 and their ST is 18, then most students scored within about 18 points, either above or below the 194. So that's the SD number. So roughly they scored between 176 to 12. Okay. Why SD matters for educators? This helps identify whether a class has similar skill levels or wider learning gaps. This is useful for grouping students, interpreting percentile ranks, and understanding whether growth is typical or exceptional. This really helps out a teacher. It's very, very important. So teachers, parents, they will see this. This is the RIT score. This is just an example, okay? So this is reading. So the blue over here, this is what the students scored. The orange represents district level, and then the yellow is what they should have scored. That's the mean, okay? So we see, like, let's say in the fall, he or she did 187, and then in the winter, they went up to 199. So that's a good jump for the student. So that's how we monitor how they progress from fall, winter, and spring, okay? And then it tells you what they're going over, maybe word recognition, word study, fluency, informational text, lexile range, and so on. Any questions about this? Yeah. 218 is this is the normal, this is the grade that they should score. Yeah. Okay, but our kids, they range. They could be either lower, in between, above, it just depends. So each student, it just depends on what they do in the fall and spring. So whenever the blue, that's the kid's score, your child or students. Okay, so how do teachers use NWEA? There are many ways that teachers across the world use macro data, but the most popular way is to put the data to use by looking for trends and commonalities in a class of students, and then adjust plans to help ensure instructional time is spent on most important learning opportunities. So, for example, a teacher might look at the macro reports and notice that their class has a higher average in algebraic thinking, okay, but lower average scores in geometric thinking. So that teacher is going to know, okay, I need to spend more time on this part of this aspect of math, let's say. The insight enables the teacher to adjust their plans over the next few weeks or even months to spend a little extra time each day of math exercises, build skills in geometric thinking. So when teachers look at the report, it's going to tell them exactly that these kids are doing really well, let's say in sentence fluency, but they're not doing so well maybe in analyzing. So the teacher knows, okay, I'm going to spend a couple weeks how to analyze a paragraph or a story, so forth. These kind of strategic shifts in how to allocate classrooms and structural time can have a huge impact over the course of the school year, and they have a direct effect on improved learning outcomes for all students. So it's really nice NWA because the teachers can see where their kids fall from the fall and then the winter, but they need to focus for that spring testing. Actually, just throughout the year, it's just not, for.
Yeah, I think parents, we can't do anything about that point, right?
I'm gonna go over that in a minute. I'm gonna tell you what you can do as a parent. All right, I'll explain it to you guys. NWA identifies learning needs and IXL provides personalized practice to help students grow in those areas. So NWA measures your child's reading and math skills and identifies strengths and gaps. IXL uses that information to provide targeted practice at the right level. Together, they help teachers personalize instruction. So when teachers have their NWA scores, they can put it in IXL. IXL will make a personalized plan for each student. Your child will not have the same thing as her child. Depends on their levels. It's really nice. So it does that for math, it does that for English.
It's good.
Yeah. So the more they practice on IXL, the better they get at this. How are they linked? Step by step, students take the NWA, it provides a score, teachers review the results, they identify the skills your child is ready to learn next. IXL assigns aligned skills, they practice is matched to your child's NWA level, skills adjust as your child improves, and then practice and growth, regular IXL practice helps students strengthen the skills measured by NWA. So this is so important. How to support your child. Avoid studying, okay? Students should not study for NWA, instead focus on general academic habits. So instead they could do daily reading at home, they could do practice number games. You guys could help them out with that maybe. Test preparation, ensure your child gets a good night's sleep and a healthy breakfast on testing days. I'll usually send out on Parents Square when they have testing. So you'll see my name from time to time. NWA, K through 8 is going to be testing this week to this week. So you guys will know. I'll give you a heads up. You can explore sample questions with your child at the official NWA warm-up site to help them feel comfortable with the format. That's also something you can help them with. Encouragement, please remind them that the test is just a tool to help their teacher understand what they are ready to learn next. And then finally, please ensure that your child's Chromebook is charged to 100%. The night before, testing can take a significant battery power, and we don't really have a lot of places where they can charge. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but NWA, one website, this is the website we can.
Yeah, you can go, if you put like NWA to Google, and it's gonna have like a drop-down menu, and then you can choose there, they'll have exercises. I recommend if teachers give your children iExcel, let them practice that as much as yeah, they can. Yeah.
Khan Academy.
Khan Academy as well, that's another thing that we use, yeah, that's Khan Academy is for grade 8 and above. Yeah.
Math and
HESAT and SAT practice.
Yeah, it's more, yeah. Yep. Okay, any other questions? All right, I'm gonna hand it over to Ms. Saad, our coordinator of curriculum and instructional coach. Thank you.
Good morning, and happy Friday. I'm Ms. Saad, curriculum coordinator. I'm gonna go ahead and give an overview. Amistad, it is a state test that's coming so soon, sometime after April 6th, which is gonna be after spring break. What is Amistad? Amistad, it's the Michigan Student Test of Educational Progress. It is a statewide test. It's an assessment for the grades 3rd to 7th and 8th and 11th grade. We do ELA, we do math, we do social studies and science. Not all the grades do the same thing, but our 3rd graders, it's gonna be our first time taking Amistad this year. What does it measure? It measures mastery of the Michigan academic standards. It is a computer-based test, and it does provide us a snapshot of a student achievement, and it does support our curriculum alignment and instruction, so we will be able to know what we're gonna do, how we're gonna implement strategies and things in our literacy plan in order to help with the instructional planning and help the students and support them will be ready for Amistad testing. What does Amistad measure? Since we're doing ELA, math, science, and social studies, in ELA, we do focus a lot on reading comprehension. We do close and critical reading with the students. We do writing, constructed responses, not only constructed responses, we do also teach the students how to write certain genres that are aligned with Amistad. So students will be exposed to all of those writing genres, so they'll be ready when the test is there, they'll be able to know, and they're ready with the information needed. We do research and reasoning, and then text analysis aligned to the state standards. That's when we do the ELA. Math, of course, is going to be more problem solving, multi-step reasoning, application of mathematical concepts, and of course, what we're measuring, grade level content expectation. Social studies and science, it's going to be the K-12 science standards and social standards. That's what Amistad measures. Understanding Amistad scores. Amistad is a little bit different. It doesn't give me, oh, my child has 100% or 90%. It does have its own levels because it's a performance level. It gives me if it's not proficient, partially proficient, if it's a proficient level, or the student is at an advanced level. Why Amistad matters? First, as teachers and as administrators and instructional coaches, it does help us identify the curriculum gap. It supports school improvement planning. It provides equity insights across subgroups. It helps inform tier 1 instructions and intervention, and it helps teachers understand the student strengths and needs, so we'll be able to plan to support every student need. I did share, it's just to show you that the test scores are different. I'm going to go ahead and examine each of these levels with the proficient, non-proficient, or partially proficient, or advanced. For the grades 3rd to 7th, we do have a lot of resources online. You can check it if you really want to know what does each grade level. There are sample grade level reports for parents to see. You'll have an idea. And if you look at the guides, I'm going to explain it a little bit after the slide. You can also have a lot of guides for parents in Arabic. So if you want to go access it, you'll be able to read and get a lot of information too. This is how the report will look like. Students who do the test, you will receive the report next year. So at the beginning of this school year, you already receive the report that looks like this one for the students in order to know what level, what's their performance level. And it's color coded, so when you get the report, you'll be able to see where is your son or daughter stand, where is the student stand, and at what level. So it's color coded. It will give you a lot of ideas what is the student's performance is. And you can take a look at it for next year when you get the other report to see how the student is doing and what improvement does he have. That's another one for math. Again, it's a color-coded one to show each level. Those are the 4 color-coded ones. So let's start with the advanced one. If my son or if my daughter, if I get a report for my student that he's at an advanced level, that tells me that that student is performance exceed the academic level. He's a high advanced student. And that student, that means it does indicate the student needs support to continue to excel. It doesn't mean he's at advanced level, we're just gonna leave them there. No, we want him to excel. If a student is at a proficient level, that student performs indicates understanding and application of the key academic content standards defined for a Michigan student. The student will continue receiving support to maintain and improve that proficiency level. If a student is partially proficient, that student performance is not yet proficient. What do we need to do? That student needs assistance to improve achievement. If a student is at not proficient level, he's not yet proficient and indicates minimal understanding. That students need help, they need intensive intervention and support to improve achievement. AMSTA practice test, we do have, there's an online one. We do practice it, students practice it in school. You can do it at home too. It's just there for everybody, just a practice test. It will give them an idea if the test does include practices for ELA, math, science, and social studies, might include multiple choice, constructed response, grade level online questions. The students will be familiar with the test and know what's going on, especially for our 3rd graders, so they haven't taken it before. IEXCEL. Why do we also use IEXCEL? Doesn't only support with NWA, it doesn't only support with the discipline, but it does also help. It's an official skill alignment document that map the skills directly to the Michigan State Test of Educational Progress, which is AMSTA. So doing the IEXCEL will give them an idea of what the test is going to look like. Not only the test, it does also provide them with a target for standards, alignment guides. It does them the concepts, procedures, problem solving, and the specific IEXCEL skill that matches that target. So that's a great practice for them. And I did give example for the 7th grade one. This is the guides to parents. There are a lot of websites, so if you go ahead and Google for AMSTA guides to parent report, you will be able to see there are Arabic one, you can click on it, and here for the Arabic one, for example, we give you an overview that explains everything they would like to, or any, or if it's a Spanish, and of course they do have the English one. It's different per grade level. It's a great resource if you would like to know more and have more information about it. And I can provide you with the resources, the websites. It's also for getting additional resources and ideas or understanding of the AMSTA test. Any questions regarding AMSTA? This is coming April 6 to May 15. That's going to be the time when our students are testing for the AMSTA. Again, we're going to follow the same thing what Ms. Saleh had shared with us. Let them charge their Chromebooks at home, get enough sleep. And then again, it's not nothing. It's gonna be, we've been practicing the whole year. All what we have in our literacy plan supports what's in AMSTA. Any questions? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna hand it to Ms. Ansari. She's our math teacher and instructional.
Assalamu alaikum and happy Friday. Yes, my name is Talath Ansari and I teach AP class and I'm instructional coach for math for middle and high school. So numeracy as the foundation for school-wide test prep. So we start from home, we continue at school, and then it's their success. So when we talk about the pathways to academic success, we often think about that it needs to be at school. But study shows that the learning habits formed at home is more helpful when they come back to the school. Now, numeracy supports success across all assessments. So it's not just about math class. It supports across NWA, PSAT, SAT, NWA, AMSTA, AB exams. So so everybody was talking about all these exams. It helps in every single one. These tests measure reasoning, problem solving, and data interpretation. So now, when we have strong habits, then the outcome is also strong. So if families don't need to teach content, their role is to help students think, talk, and reason about numbers in every day. That's where the confidence begins. So here, these are the data tables graph. The students learn to understand these, and they learn to reason and problem solve. And the school-wide test prep is most effective when it builds foundational skills and reasoning, not just how to take tests, you sleep well, or use all these. When you build this language in them, then it is very helpful. And all school-wide test prep all emphasize interpreting graphs, analyzing data, and solving multi-step problems. These skills are developed over time through consistent numeracy practice. Now, when students regularly explain their thinking, now, for example, when you go to a grocery store, you might just ask them, look here, it says it is 30% sale. So all I want you to ask them is, how much the 30% will make me cost when I go to the counter? So that's numeracy. So regularly explain their thinking and interpret information visually. They are better prepared for unfamiliar test questions. So numeracy builds stamina and flexibility. They are both essential for assessments. Now, we know these comments, right? This comes from them, the students. So how do we do this? So one of the biggest barriers we hear from families is fear of math, fear of teaching it incorrectly, or fear of test pressure. So normally the students come and tell me, I can't. I fear math. It's so hard. So when sometimes the parents come in the parent-teacher meeting and say, I'm not good at math, it comes from me. No, that's the biggest fear. We want you to avoid that. So our message is simple. Families do not need to know the method or the answer. Ask students to explain their thinking is enough for us. You don't need to find the correct answer, but let them ask, let them process. So questions like, how do you know, or does that answer make sense? Directly support the reasoning skills, assist on school-wide test prep. This approach reduces anxiety and builds confidence in the students. So here, recently we did the graphing calculator workshop as part of our school-wide pathway. Students participated and they focused on when and why to use the calculator, not just how. So this directly aligns with their school-wide test prep calculator active sections. Students must interpret graphs, verify answers, choose efficient strategies. So by using consistent language and tools across classrooms, we strengthen transfer and reduce confusion during testing situations. So we also make sure that, the calculators which we give to them in the exam, we practice in the class first. So here, pathway to numeracy assessment, awareness. First, it starts with awareness, then skill building, family engagement, practice, academic success. So when families understand that numeracy happens everywhere, students gain daily practice. When schools reinforce reasoning and tool use, students gains confidence. So the practice, daily practice, and then comes the confidence. The result is not just improved test scores, but stronger problem solvers who are prepared for academic success beyond assessments. So when we are going outside or when we are home, please talk about numbers, talk about numeracy. So inshallah, we'll build confidence. Any questions? So here I invite instructional coach for science, Ms. Alawar.
Good morning. I'm gonna make it short and quick because I know that this has been a lot of information and it is a lot of valuable information, but ultimately we're gonna try to take out what really matters to us as parents. So first of all, this is Lana Alawar. I'm a science teacher still at ULA and also the science instructional coach. I'm happy to see parents who I taught students. And your kids are all currently still my students or I taught in previous years. So how I'm going to be addressing this part is more or less what teachers expect from parents in terms of supporting all those strategies that we've talked about. So ultimately, we talked about multiple tests and multiple strategies and multiple approaches and plans and techniques that we use in class. But is it really everything that we should do at home, or is it really the responsibility of parents to know all that at home and apply all that at home? Practically speaking, that is not possible. But there are some very simple ways by which we can ensure that our kids are reinforcing the content they get at school in an easier and more effective way at home. And this is going to be very practical and very example-based so that we really work together. So I'm first starting with a very, very simple diagram, which as simple as it looks, it is the guiding pathway for our students' success. We generally focus on what students do and are they able to do well on tests? Are they able to perform well on assessments? Are they getting what we are doing in class? And we do focus on what teachers do in class and how schools address test prep or literacy or all the components of preparing students for state assessments. But one very and equally important component is the work of parents. And for that, I thank you for taking the time today to show up and to actually be active participants in your children's learning. So what should parents really do to ensure that NWEA and STEP, daily assessments and literacy is promoted and it is a lot. Even for us as educators, it is a lot. But if we just want to remember how our parents helped us at home or how education was way back, it really didn't focus much on the end goal as much as the process. Ultimately, if good teaching and learning are happening and parents are teachers are working together, that student is going to perform well on whatever assessment that may be. So keeping this in mind and making sure that we are just holding our kids accountable, working towards a shared goal, which is learning, then the assessment will follow and the assessment will definitely show the required growth. So this has been discussed not only today, but in previous parent engagement sessions as well. We are focusing on literacy, we are focusing on test prep in multiple ways. Inside the classrooms, we are taking the extra step to make sure that students learn how to study at home. And this is an issue that we face day in and day out whenever we are talking to parents in parent meetings or just discussing student performance. The first question is, well, what should they do at home? Or what is it that they have to cover at home? So that is the requirement. Do you need to step out? Is everything fine? So the main goal is to generally focus on what can be done at home and how we can supplement what happens inside the classrooms at home as well. So what are some good habits that we can focus on inside the classrooms and carry on to the after school hours where students are at home? Again, the main requirement from every single parent is to just follow through with what we do inside the school. And what is it that we do? The main and most important way is to stay connected to all the digital platforms that we have. I know that they may be a lot. We transitioned to Parent Square recently, where we used to use Class Dojo before. But again, just by connecting to Google Classroom and Parent Square, we know what's happening inside the classrooms. Once I know that my teacher posted in her week at a glance that she will cover fractions and decimals this week, a very simple question at home is, well, what did you cover in fractions today? Can you tell me what happened today? This makes the parents more involved, and it also shows the kids that we are still knowing what's happening inside the school and we know how to follow through at home. So getting connected on Google Classroom, on Parent Square is very important. For the older kids, Power School is equally, if not even more important. If a student is receiving multiple failing scores and the parents are unaware, it becomes very problematic later on to address this issue, especially when parents don't know that that much work has been missed. So being connected on Power School and actually checking students' work and their scores and linking that, asking, well, I know that you covered this in class today, and that is your score. You did not study, as opposed to asking our kids, well, what did you have for home? So limiting the broad questions, did you study? Or what do you have for homework? And replacing it with, I know you have this and this and this. How are you studying? That makes a whole lot of a difference, showing the students that the teachers and the parents are on the same page and working together for that. Another very interesting and fun way for students to address studying at home with parental support is creating vocabulary charts or setting aside a small notebook where, well, let's say I am at home today and I ask my child, what are some 5 new words that you learned today? And you start creating that vocabulary, 5 words for science, 5 words for math, maybe sketching out what the word means, not necessarily writing the definition, but more so sketching out what that word means. And then when testing time arrives, we take that notebook and we start playing a review game. Well, if it looks like a light bulb, what is the vocabulary? It would be idea. If it looks like something that is really, really expensive, what is the vocabulary word? That is linking the learning to actual steps that we can really do at home, 5, 10, 15-minute activities, not only focusing on the homework, but also making it engaging and involving ourselves as parents. So that is another way which we talked about, that is vocabulary sketched or creating vocabulary lists and note cards. We are actually having test prep sessions, specifically within the science department. We did do this right before winter break, where we actually set time inside the classrooms to teach students how to make their note cards, how to study using note cards. Why is this important? This is primarily important because it links back to literacy. I'm reading, I'm analyzing, I'm writing a note that is valuable to me, that is related to my actual understanding and to areas that I specifically need help with. So note-taking is extremely important, and it is not only a school habit. We build the habit at school, but ultimately in their post-secondary education and in their high school education moving forward, students will need to customize their own learning and make it more personal through note-taking. So I'm going to carry this into an actual example, assuming that I am a mother of a 6th grade student who just came back home and an IXL assignment has been assigned. So again, as parents, we are not going to go reinvent the wheel or find new resources to add to the overwhelm of students and to our short time that we have. We are going to revisit what is done inside the schools. Well, I know that bell work was done in all your core classes. Let's pull up those bell work questions. I know that IXL is generally used for bell work. So let's look at this IXL question. All right, this is the question. What are some important words that we covered? Or what are some new words that you learned today? Is it matter? I just chose those arbitrary words right now. Matter, mass, volume. On a separate paper, let's draw what this word means. And specifically for ESL students, it is very, very, very helpful to sketch something instead of writing a definition. So if I am a visual learner and I remember most by remembering a picture or a sketch, I could just sketch out something that links to the definition of matter, to the definition of mass, to the definition of volume, and the definition of an atom. And I set it aside. Well, what is the main idea? Did you get this question right in the class? If not, IXL provides me with an explanation. And that is what students overlook the most. Once they get the answer wrong and IXL provides the explanation, they just click their way through I excel. If that is the case and you got it wrong, that explanation, let's write it down on a note card because you got it wrong. So we put it down on a note card. When the end of unit summative or when the quiz approaches, I'm not going to wait for a study guide. I have those at home. Those are set aside. I have my sketches. I have my definitions. I have my note cards. Let's play a review game. I'm going to hold my cards. I'm going to ask you a question. Every time you get the question right, well, I'm going to provide an incentive for you. It could be whatever you agree on at home. Building this habit would become such an automatic process when students are in high school. This becomes an automatic thinking of your own thinking skill, where students sit at home, they read the text, they read whatever they have, and they start creating their own notes. And this is not something that is built overnight. This is not something that only happens at school. This is something that parents can simply support with by making sure that students have something to do, having a system in place. So a simple 5-minute question has been changed into something visual, something that can be set aside for test prep and revision, and something that builds on students' literacy skills and vocabulary. So this is basically everything for my part. If there are any questions, I would like to answer them before we wrap up this session. No questions? All right. So ultimately, the ESL programs, reading, numeracy interventions, along with all the scientific practices in teaching that we apply, and your support our child's academic success. And it is again back to the triangle. It is not only the teacher, it is not only the student, it is not only the parent. Though we do the bulk of the work, but we set it there for you to support in whatever way possible for you. Again, parents are vital in reinforcing what children learn at school, and always be patient and supportive, just the way we are. We are focusing on growth. You may have noticed that most of the state assessments are growth-based. It's not only pass or fail. We are really celebrating those little wins day in and day out. Every time a student is showing growth in whatever aspect, it is something to celebrate and to build on. And that is it. Thank you so much. We gladly answer questions, and if you can please take the time to fill out the survey for the PD session, that would be highly appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
HES Academies have been serving the Detroit metro area for over 23 years, promoting academic excellence, leadership, and cultural diversity, ranking as some of the top schools in the state of Michigan. Our pre-K through 12th grade students enjoy tuition-free, state-accredited education by STEM certified and highly qualified staff with no geographical restrictions, and with advanced placement, college dual enrollment, scholarship, and Arabic language programs. Noor International Academy in Sterling Heights at niapsa.org, Star International Academy in Dearborn Heights and in Canton at starpsa.org, Universal Academy in Detroit at universalpsa.org, and Universal Learning Academy in Westland at ulapsa.org. Join HES Academies today and enjoy a free Chromebook for every enrolled student.